For this episode of Let's Talk Jinx, I thought I'd do something a little bit different. See, you can make all the great videos in the world, and that's good. And some of y'all do. Some of y'all make absolute bangers. But the problem is, ultimately, titles and thumbnails still reign king on getting people to actually click on your video to then watch your video. So that's what I'm going to do today. So every now and then I kind of do like a YouTube-esque, like if you're a fellow either Jinx something or just really any kind of champion main, we go through like the toolkit of how to actually put together a full video. And thumbnails and titles aren't one of the things we've ever really talked about. So that's what I'm going to do for this video episode of Let's Talk Jinx. We're going to make like a Jinx thumbnail, probably the thumbnail that's going to be for this video, and we're going to go from there. So first things first. In something like Photoshop, which there is a free version on, like a browser version of Photoshop online, it's called P, I believe it's called, like the food you eat. In whatever program you're using, you want to open a new canvas. Now, this part isn't necessarily what you have to do. I just noticed it tends to work in the old days of YouTube when you'd make a video and you ever put stuff together. You ever notice there'd be like the black borders around a video, like if the video was like almost cropped in or something, and it's because different things are at different sizes when you put the video together. So when I tend to put a thumbnail together, just in case I want to use it in a future video for like a screen grab or something, I tend to make the width 1920 and the height 1080, like 1080p, like the resolution that the rest of the videos that I tend to make tend to be in. So that's the first things first. You have this nice blank canvas. So let's say you're making a Jinx video and you want one of Jinx's splash arts as the background. Now, if you don't have it saved on your computer, one of the things you can do is you can go on Google, and I'll show you how to be able to just kind of drag and drop an image. We go on Google, we go, let's say classic Jinx splash art. We go images. I just said I don't have safe search on, so I was worried for a split second. All right, boom, here's Jinx's splash art. You can go copy image. If you don't want to save it to your computer, go back to Photoshop and then hit like Control V or just paste it, like copy paste it in. And that way you don't have to actually go save it as a file, forget what you named the file because it's a bunch of letters, and then you don't know where it is. Now afterwards, if you notice, it's not exactly filling the entire canvas. So what you can do is you can hit Control T, which is Control Transform, and you can say move it in the corner, and you can grab these edges on the edges of the picture to stretch it to fit the canvas. Now, one tip that a lot of people do across different, genres, let's plays and stuff too, is they tend to blur the background slightly. So when you put something in the foreground, it'll pop up more. So let's say that's the background image. Okay. Well, then let's say we want to blur it. You go up to filter, go down to blur, and personally I like Gaussian blur, and you can set it to 5 or you can set it to 10. I wouldn't really go beyond 10, but 5 or 10 should do it to be able to blur it. Boom. There you go. All right, so now I'm going to bring up the last Jinx skin, Cafe Cuties, right? Because if you wanted to use this as the foreground image, right, you could use over here, you have the quick selection tool, and then you can adjust the size with the arrow right up here, right? So you can try and like grab the skin, and if the skin contrasts enough with the background, it'll actually be a pretty simple job and won't give you too much trouble to just kind of go through and grab the image. But in certain situations where the skin, or like this happens, so now all of this got grabbed too, you could take this one and kind of try and go through and refine it and be like, no, don't grab any of that. Don't grab any of that. And basically have a situation where, yeah, well, then you got to go through and grab all that and ungrab all that and back and forth. This is one way you can do it if there's enough contrast where it's pretty easy and pretty quick. And then I'll just do this for example. It's not perfect, but then we go back over here. You hit, once you highlight all that stuff, go in the area that's highlighted, hit Control C or copy, and then go back over here and paste it. So Control V or paste. And you'll have some edges that are kind of like this and stuff like that. So we'll leave this in here for an example right now. Let's say you had all these rough edges and you didn't like them. One thing you can kind of do, you also have to press Enter to be able to actually paste it, by the way, if you're actually using the transform tool. I forgot to mention that earlier. Hit Enter when you're done ever with the transform tool to set it, and then you can go back to moving stuff. Here we go. Let's say two things. One, it's kind of dark versus the background. We want this to be a little lighter. You can come up to Image, go over to brightness and contrast, and then adjust these in whatever direction you want to make them either brighter or maybe darker because you want the background brighter. So for example, we could crank the contrast up, we can crank the brightness up. That's kind of like that really saturated effect you see sometimes in League YouTube thumbnails. That's how they do that, by the way. But let's say the edges are still a problem. You can go to Layers, you can go to Layer Style, and you can add like an outer glow. So move that over there. Let's say we make the outer glow the same kind of pinkish color like that, right? add the outer glow, kind of hides the edges, add an inner glow, make it the same color even if you want to, so that same pink, right? And then the edges don't matter too much. You can even add a stroke. In the old days, you'd see people have like a thick, like a white layer for this. They take the stroke and they make it like white and do like that. Almost like a sticker. That was kind of the idea, is you were making a sticker out of what you were doing. Now, that's a couple things you could do for that, but there is another thing you can do to just make it cleaner, period. So let's go back over here. Down towards the bottom, at least this version of Photoshop I have, is called the pen tool. Now this will take significantly longer to do, so I already have this done so that this video can be quicker. But basically what it allows you to do is you can zoom in, you have a starting point. Let's say we started way down here. And you can use the pen tool to just kind of like put these points right here, okay? And you can go and trace all the way around an image until you get back over to here. And what it will let you do, so for the sake of, I'll just show you what an end result looks like. When you get done, let's say we went all the way around the entire, Jinx inside the splash art. You would come over, you would right click in the middle space. It would say make selection. You would hit that. Leave the feather radius about 1, that's basically good enough. And then all of that would be suddenly something that you would go in the middle, you hit copy, you go back over here, you hit paste, and then you'd have that to work with. And so what I mean by having that already done is back when Cafe Cuties Jinx came out, I did that already, and that's how I have now a PNG, pretty high quality PNG of the skin outside of the splash art that I can then copy and then drop into an image when I want to, with the edges that are just fine. It takes time though, that is the thing. It is a bit time consuming, that is true. Thumbnails usually take me like 30 minutes to make. I usually turn on a playlist when I'm making thumbnails and go that route. That is an option though for if you want to take an image really out of anything. I could have did this with a classic splash and stuff like that too, but that is an option to do that for taking out something from a splash art, especially when a skin drops, and obviously that's when it's the most popular and you're trying to get a video out and no one online maybe has PNGs done yet and you want to do your own thing originally. So one thing about Jinx versus, especially like 2017, some of you might not remember, but in 2017, a lot of people love to do the thing, even if it was like Rengar or Cho'Gath or something, where you would go online, you would find, how do I word this? YouTube doesn't care anymore about this channel. Like a lewd, like female version of the champion and put them in the thumbnail. It was kind of like clickbait, right? That's basically what it was, like low key. That's what people used to do back then. Jinx, meanwhile, is not that kind of a character, right? I can't do like this and just call that the thumbnail and be that's good. That's not really what people that are into Jinx come here for, or come to Jinx thumbnails for, is that right there. So one thing you can do with the transform tool is obviously use that to make stuff bigger. And since Jinx tends to be the focal point, and Fishbones even at times, you can though, however, say make Jinx, maybe a Fishbones, maybe we gotta crank that a little like that, the focal point, and go like that instead. Actually, you want to be crazy? We can go even bigger. Why not? It's like Jinx is really trying to get to know you right now. Like, hey, how's it going? Boom, right? And you can still apply the same other stuff. So you can go back to images, go to brightness if you want to mess with the contrast and stuff. You don't have to. I don't know how well that will work like this. Go back to layers. You can even do a drop shadow behind. So I usually, if I do the drop shadow, I'm going to go like the opacity at 100, angle at about 90, distance 0, spread 0. Maybe increase the size and then adjust the spread accordingly. And then put like background glow behind it. So since Jinx has blues, we're going to use a blue color behind. Open that up like that. Same thing over here for the inner glow. And then we'll do the stroke, but we won't do the sticker thing. We'll still make it white because then it kind of looks like a little bit of a glow. Especially if we go like a light blue, since we've been doing blues. So like a light blue. And then there we go. And now here's a thing, right? So if you ever see this, it's kind of fuzzy. Go to the magic erase tool. So in your eraser tool, there's erase tool, background erase, magic erase. Go to magic erase and click in the empty space. And it'll sometimes get rid of those rougher lines or that fuzzy look if you just click a bunch in that empty space. On the correct layer, of course. So we're gonna go over here now and we're gonna make a new layer. Why? Because if I mess this up, then I don't ruin this layer. We're gonna grab the color from Jinx's eye. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna go back over here to the brush tool. But we're gonna go up to the top and make it this fuzzy one. So the first one's kind of more of like a fuzz shape. And the reason we wanna do that is because an idea I kind of do sometimes, I don't always do this, but maybe you might like this idea, is I'll go over the eyes. Let's get a size that I like. And we'll click. And we'll click. Maybe even twice, but once is usually good enough. Now that's weird. Sure. We go up to images, layer style, go back to outer glow. And what we're going to do now is we're going to take the opacity up to 100, grab that same color, and down here at spread and size, we're going to crank the size all the way up and leave everything else the same. Then we're going to go back to the layer. So layer 3 is the eye layer here. Go to opacity and crank that down until it looks like the eyes kind of have a glow to them, but isn't like overbearing. We can't see the eyes at all. And that's how I tend to do that little effect in thumbnails whenever I do that. It works a lot better on like Monokuma because it has that black half and the red eye, so it really stands out a lot more than this. But it could be something you might want to do, like with Get Excited, now that we know that it's shimmer and stuff like that. And different experimentations with how you might want to make that look. Maybe you want more of the glow to it than not, or maybe you want barely any glow at all. Maybe you want none, that's fine too. But now you know how I do it, and it's pretty simplistic. There's better ways to do it, but we'll get into that later. So honestly, actually one of the last but not least things to do obviously is text in a thumbnail. So here's a quick note. For one, if you have a dark background, use light text, like light colored text. If you have a light background, use dark colored text. Remember, a lot of people view these things on mobile. A lot of people that use YouTube on mobile. So the thumbnail is going to be like that small. So if you make too much text, or the text the same color or close to a color as a thumbnail, it's going to be really, really hard to read, and you don't want that. So let's say we call this Jinx. I guess it depends whatever font you want to use. When I like the big blocky font, I go to Rockwell Extra Bold, as a matter of fact. That's the one that I tend to use. You use the transform tool to resize it if it's like not in the right spot, or you want to kind of move it around, you know. Jinx thumbnail. And some of the same stuff works. So these count as their own layers. So you can go back to layer if you want to. You can go to drop shadow, and instead this time distance 0, spread 100, and then size 15. I'll explain why in a second. And this is just what I do. You don't have to do this, but in case you're kind of curious, you have nowhere to start from, this could be an interesting idea. 3D looking text. Now it's a little difficult depending on how exactly and how many words and stuff you're using. I'm going to take the time to actually move thumbnail under this part of Jinx's name for this. I'm going to try and line it up a bit so it doesn't come up too much. There we go. What we're going to do is we're going to create a new layer, and this is just because Photoshop's kind of weird this way. There's actually like plugins and stuff to do this. I'm doing like a non-plugin run right now. We're going to just click, technically, you know, just color like right here behind the text so it's not seen. And then this layer we can now combine with the text layers. We can merge the layers, and now it's an image layer, and that's important for later. But for now, what we can do is we can go duplicate, or copy paste, and then hit transform, and then I use the arrow keys. I go like up 2 over 2, and then I do this a good like 10 times. So I'll fast forward. Hold on. Boom. It's a little hard to see. Hold on, I'll fix that in a second. But now you kind of have like that 3D effect where it looks like it's kind of like coming up and off and away of the thumbnail itself. It's not great, it's not perfect. The plugins and stuff definitely work better, but that is an option. But one thing you can do to help this maybe pop against the background too is you can go back to layers, because now it's an image file, and this is why it was important. You can add things like outer glow or stroke, for example. One thing I love to do is, let's say I go to color, let's say I go red, I'll make the stroke, let's say 8. Then I'll copy this layer, I'll duplicate it basically, put the one that's behind, I'll go back in, take that stroke, take it back to white, and make it twice the size of whatever I made the other one. So since that one was 8, I'll make this one 16. And you can rotate the colors too, like maybe you want the outer color to be the color and the inner one to be white. So instead you just do it in reverse. You go, okay, well fine. This instead of white will be like that graffiti pink color Jinx uses, and then the top layer will be white instead, and maybe that's the way you like to look for it better. So then we go like this, and then boom, that's white, and then boom, that's how it looks. And you can just hover over to your Photoshop file to see kind of maybe what looks like small. So that is a lot easier to suddenly see on a phone. So there it is. Now there's a ton more I could get into. This is just a couple techniques to get started. You don't have to make this thumbnail specifically, but I thought it'd be cool in case you are someone that's like, I make videos, I want to make thumbnails, I'm not exactly sure how to work my way around Photoshop. Photoshop has a lot of stuff on it. You'll hear this when it comes to a lot of software. There's like 80% of things in softwares when you're using them that you're never going to actually touch. You only need to know how to use about maybe 20% of anything to really get the kind of the results that you want. There's a bunch of other stuff I could show you too, like how to blend backgrounds. I might do that real quick, why not? All right, we'll grab Ambitious Elf Jinx. We'll throw in Cafe Cuties Jinx and Star Guardian Jinx, why not? So first things first, figure out which one you want to be the centerpiece. So for this one, I think we're gonna make Cafes the centerpiece, so we'll hide the other layers. Cafe doesn't really need to move. You can resize it a little bit if you want, if you feel like that's not middle. You want to zoom in, so you want them to kind of definitively be the centerpiece. You know, there you go. First things first. Make sure the other 2 layers are on top of the base layer then. So if that's the bottom layer, these 2 layers need to be on top of the Cafe Cuties Jinx layer. So Ambitious Elf Jinx. Let's say we want them to be more to the left. We'll open that up. We'll put them over in this corner like this. And then what we do is we go to layer, go down to layer mask, go to reveal all. Now, remember back when we have like the bucket looking thing for the fill tool? There's another thing over there called the gradient tool. You want to click on that. Now by default, it should do like have all the settings set already. So all you have to do is go back over here on the outside. Make sure you're on the Ambitious Elf Jinx layer for this, for example. Click over here and then drag over until, I'd say, honestly, the other side of the screen. You'll create this, where it's kind of faded. It's not perfect. We're going to fix that, but that's how to get that started, by the way. Then, before you click off the layer, go back up to the layer tab, or actually go to images, my bad. Go to adjustments, and then go to levels. Now, once you're here, you'll notice a couple things. One, this like just straight line, that's the border of the splash for Ambitious that you can still kind of see. Once you move this arrow on the far left past that to the right, that'll fade away. But let's say that's not quite good enough yet. Like you want Ambitious Elf to be a bit more stronger. That's what the arrow on the far right is going to be. The more you pull that over, the stronger that's going to be. But let's say again, you want it to still be faded though, so you can still see the Cuties Cafe Jinx in the middle. You just keep kind of dragging that over until you can see that, and then dragging that one over until you can kind of see both of them. And that's how you've now blended that one. So for Guardian Jinx, or Star Guardian Jinx, it's the same thing. First, let's maybe move this one over here. We can make her like a little bit bigger like the others with a control tool. So Control T again. There we go. Or transform tool, my bad. Go like this. Again, layers, layer mask, reveal all. Again, click from off the canvas even and drag it all the way over almost to the other side. Boom. Again, images, adjustment, levels. And that's how you can work on how it blended. So you want that to be like way over here, so you can see that. Okay, we'll start on Jinx starting to fade away. Drag this arrow back over here, and then voila. That's how you do like the triple blended kind of a situation like this. And then if you want to, you can bring back the stuff on top, or you can bring back this even if you want to make these ones go away. And then you would have to obviously move this somewhere else, like over here maybe, and then boom. One thing you can do, of course, is once all of your images are set, you can merge them by selecting all of them. So like, you know, control and then clicking on, or my bad, shift and then clicking on each of them, and then right click and merge layers. And then if you want to say adjust again, you want to do the whole brightness contrast thing, you can do them all at once instead of individually. And then kind of have a thing like that situation going on. Boom. Now the last thing I'll show you is if you want, you can also change the color of a text or layer period, actually by going to the granite overlay. Now because we have all the stuff done, it'll bleed everything, but just to show you what it looks like though. And then what you can do is you click on this part right here in the middle, and it'll bring up colors right here. And that's how you can change the colors if you don't want to have to change the text itself. So if you want to go like this, and then you want to go over to this one and make this one say like a more golden or red even, and then hit OK. And then you can, you know, adjust the scale of how much you want it to blend or not blend. Reverse it if you want the red on the bottom, yellow on top. The opacity of it, if you want it to kind of be seen, but kind of not be seen on top of the stuff. There's a lot of things you can play with right there, and that's how you play with them. A lot of levers, a lot of opacity adjustments, and things like that really is how you get that going. So we're going to do like that instead. White will be easier to see on a smaller screen. And that's going to be it for this video. So that's a thumbnail. That's probably going to be a thumbnail for this video. Thank you so much for watching this video, by the way. And maybe that's some ways to help you get started with making your own Jinx thumbnails. So I don't know which video will be next, because I'm going to have a lot of kinks. So until next time, take care. ggGetJinxed. Thank you for watching, and enjoy pizza responsibly.